Grew up in a Christian home, and it was a beautiful church environment. Okay, now it wasn't without its problems, but as far as that community of people goes, small church, very family oriented. Half the people I was related to, the other half felt like I was related to. So it was a great Christian upbringing, with one exception, and that is we never went really deep theologically. So that when I went to university and studied physics, wanted to become a science teacher. Who would want to do that? But I wanted to be a science and math teacher. And so I'm at a secular school, and I'm being challenged by friends of mine who hold different worldviews, different world religions. I had a Muslim friend, I had Jewish friends, I had atheist friends, and we're all sitting around one day, and they asked him, "We know you go to church. Why are you a Christian?" And the best I could do in that moment was, I'm a Christian because my parents are Christians. And I knew as the words were leaving my mouth that that was not a good answer. And so there's a little bit of embarrassment there. And that's why I remember that situation like it was yesterday. And I remember going home thinking, well, why am I a Christian? So I started doing some digging. I started looking into answers. And what I found was, hey, there was some smart Christians out there. I didn't know that they existed. I didn't know what an apologist was. I didn't know that there was something called apologetics. I also found that, man, there's a lot of smart atheists and a lot of smart people from other worldviews. And now I'm wrestling with this. It's so interesting that the doubts initially didn't come from within. It came from without. It was like I was kind of in this isolated bubble for my whole life, where I was in church, I was at youth group. I would invite secular friends. I went to a public school, so I would invite them, and they would, tag along. We would play things like volleyball or laser tag or paintball, all the fun stuff. So lots of my non-Christian friends wanted to hang out on Friday night with us. But it was like, in this moment, now I'm being asked a serious question about my faith, and I didn't have a good answer. So it was actually through the months kind of preceding this event, the months after this event, where I realized that, man, there is a rich intellectual tradition for not just what we believe, but also why we believe it. There's good reasons to be a Christian. Well, I knew at some point that I want to go even deeper with this. I want to get trained in these philosophical and theological ideas. And then I had posted something online, just, about what's going on in our lives. And I get a random message from a guy named Simon Brace. Okay. Turns out he is a student or working for SES. Now, again, never really heard of SES, Southern Evangelical Seminary. What's that? And he says to me, "Tim, that you could actually stay home and get an education through our school, because we do live stream classes, we have online classes. And so this would allow you to keep working and having a ministry." And that I had started a ministry. I didn't want to give that ministry up. And moving would have meant starting fresh all over again. And so we started praying about this, and I started looking into it, started talking to some of the professors. I find out Norman Geisler, who, I got his books on my bookshelf. I'm like, Norm Geisler, he's a professor there. I could take a class with him. And so we pulled the trigger on that. I thought, let's give this a try. I enrolled, and I am so glad I did. It was because I was at SES that I was still able to do ministry while I'm being equipped and I'm being educated.